Welcome to Rules of Villainy, episode 36. We're through three new. Damn it! All right,
we're not even editing that.
Coming in again.
Where you left off.
No, I'm coming in again. Welcome to Rules of Villainy, episode 36, where three new trading card game players quest and challenge their way to the competitive top tables in this, as always, extra long podcast for your viewing needs. And this week, we're going to discuss our opinions on Disney's Lorcana and the latest news, answer your questions, and going over the latest developments in the metagame and our experience this past week doing Sealed. I'm Villain Vince, joined as always by my friends and yours, Villain Andy, and the mayor of Lorcana himself, Brad. How's it going tonight, gentlemen?
Feeling good. Just woke up from a nap. How about you, Andy?
I don't know. I think next episode we need to institute the countdown, the 1 hour and 15-minute countdown, and we put up a countdown, and the episode
like in the upper right hand corner, and just when it hits
just,
zero, it ends.
It ends. It kicks us all out of the call, and the episode ends there.
No, I got it better. I got a better idea. I like where you're going with it, but it ends, and then it continues for those that are subscribed to the Patreon.
Ooh. Yes.
And then they can watch it live.
They get an extra 2 minutes before we realize that it's cut out.
They get an extra few minutes. So, but what's the
we're on Beard Watch. It's been a week. We still got a bearded Vince. Let's go.
We do. I'm like, let me tell you, the odds that it's going to last another week are low. Okay, they're really low, but they're not zero. If you continue to like it, let me know. The more positive feedback I get, the more likely I am to keep it, because everybody has been complimenting on it, and I'm not asking for compliments. It's more just like, it helps me, like, not like every time I like go into the bathroom, I'm like, oh, I just want to get rid of it.
You're almost to the point where it's not going to be so bothersome.
All right. But we did get some good feedback, So I heard like beard oil was one of our feedback in one of the videos. So more feedback. Let me know.
We've got like 3 subscribers, right? So we just need like a couple more to keep the streak going. We got to get one of those on the stream as well, like a little subscriber like goal. Vince's beard.
Just one new subscriber is enough to keep it going, right? Like as long as we keep going on the plus, I think Vince should keep it. I mean, that seems fair to me.
Honestly, we also probably should make like a beard emoji in the Discord.
I have no problems making new emojis. I will do that with no problem. Every like day, there's a new one that I make, and somebody's like, "There's an emoji for that now." Like, you guys can check them out too if you want to join our Discord. Link in the description.
But enough for my beard. What's this? You looking mighty fancy over there, sir?
What are you talking about?
You?
Yeah.
What's with the suit?
I'm always wearing a suit. Have you not noticed?
He's the mayor.
Are you kidding me? Yeah, I'm the mayor. What are you talking about? I always look this good.
Listen, I could go back in previous videos and prove that wrong right now.
I don't know. That might be altered videos. Yeah. No, joking aside, I made a commitment today during one of the streams on Wonderland from Team Maelstrom. He and JDZ Quest were streaming some of the Continental games. It was Sailor and Spessy were playing today, which was a lot of fun to watch. But the real highlight for me was how suave, how cool JDZ looked in his suit. I'm like, you got dressed up for Lorcana today, huh? And he looks good. He always sounds good when he's streaming those games. And I said, you know what? I'm going to do the podcast in my suit tonight. We're gonna be styling in the world of Lorcana today. You inspired me, sir, and I'm going to hold to that commitment. And I don't want anybody to tell me that I don't commit to the bit, because I'm full suited up. I have shoes on even as well, in case you guys called me out on it on pants or shoes, the whole thing. So yeah,
but you know what you're missing?
What's that?
A hat.
I know that's what he said when I sat down. I was like, "Where's the top hat and the monocle?" And I'm like,
We
one
need
of these
to-
days.
Listen, folks, I'm telling you, like, subscribe helps that YouTube algorithm and will allow us to take Brad to a haberdashery and get a nice top hat.
Absolutely.
And it's absolutely needed. We cannot have a mayor without the top hat. He's got the title. We need the look to go with it.
And if there are any haberdasheries out there, maybe in the St. Louis area or really anywhere that would like to sponsor the podcast, we would be willing to, give you a short ad read in exchange for one top hat for the mayor.
Yeah. I mean, before the Seattle DLC, even Andy was like looking up haberdasheries in Seattle for the bit of me having a top hat. Like, we don't get one in St. Louis. I'll just look in Seattle. We're gonna make it happen. And narrator, he didn't. But
it was too far away.
It was very far away.
Yeah, I mean, our hope was to like get one before Worlds. The problem is like there's no timeline, no deadline when that may or may not happen.
Get to it. We'll get to it when we get to it, right?
So yeah, it's been one of those things. But getting a little bit into Underworld news, it's been kind of a slow news week, mostly because I think everybody's busy opening packs with a new set and everything. But one little piece of news kind of snuck out, which is that the videos that they produce for all of the sets they're discontinued, so there won't be one for Arcasia's Island or anything else, any going further, which is kind of a bummer. I think
mega bummer. Yeah,
I think it's really sad, but at the same time, we understand that those resources are being utilized elsewhere in the new Netflix animated series Lorcana.
Let's go. That's what I said. That was my first pick.
Yeah.
Not Netflix. Disney Plus.
Disney Plus.
Obviously, Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Come on.
Obviously. Whoa. I'm sorry. We'll cut that out. We'll edit that out.
We don't know what that platform is.
Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Speaking of, Moana 2 dropped today. I need to see that.
I think Kirsten's watching it for a second time right now.
Of course.
Did it drop on Disney Plus?
Today, yeah. By the time you're hearing this, it'll have been out for a few days. But yeah, it's Big Moana Day.
Well, before we move on to Constituents Corner, I think Brad, you've got some.
Yeah, a little bit of local news. Yeah, I had this idea. It was actually brought up by Martin Karp, one of our listeners. He says he does something similar to his locals. I reached out to our community on our community Discord, and I said, hey, I had this idea, or I was presented with this idea where we have a lot of constructed that happen. We've always talked about how great, how much Lorcana we have in our community, but specifically on the nights with constructed, which is 4 or 5 nights a week here. I would like to just take the top couple decks, the 3-0s, the 2-1s, the interesting decks even, and showcase them at the end of the week, like This Week in Lorcana. And I'm going to come up with some fun name for it, hopefully, for like a 10, 15, 20-minute video, just talking about the decks, what is currently, the top decks, in the local meta throughout these stores. And not only does it broadcast, showcase the stores that which we enjoy the game and sells the product and everything, but it also brings light to some community members who I think would enjoy, special spots on the show, and just talking about the decks and the cool things that they've done with it. And I thought it would be a fun little piece of extra content that hopefully you guys enjoy. I want to do it regularly. I'm hoping that my idea is I would do it Saturday mornings and have like a new 20-minute video for you guys to check out some new decks, or at least the local ones. And maybe, you can find in your locals that they're similar, or it's vastly different in St. Louis than it is in Denver. And, you can just see the scope of how the game varies region to region, on what the local meta is. And I think it'd be a lot of fun. I want to talk about it. I want to do it. So I'm going to pull the trigger just for a little bit of extra content here on this channel.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really cool idea, Brad. And I think as the new Ravensburger Play Hub, is it called, right? The new app that they're working on.
Something like that.
If it's anything like that sort of pre-release version we got to see back when they were doing those online tournaments in the early days of the game, that you could upload your deck list to, and it had things like ratings across the, it had like it tracked your stats across various stores. And so people who play at some of these different stores, you'll be able to, scan that data and add it to your, your weekly sports center, if you will.
Yeah.
I will say this. There's very few predictions I'm willing to say are 100%, but there is no way that the Lurkana, like the Ravensburger Play Hub, doesn't allow you to upload decks or create decks within it for that, because that is obviously a roadmap that they had for Melee at some point, and it's clearly a gap that they have. They're not going to switch from Melee to a platform that goes backwards in time when that platform already had it. So I'm pretty confident that I think that platform will have that ability built in from the get. And I'd be very surprised if it didn't.
I think it's one of the reasons they may be leaving Melee. That was supposed to have been added to Melee back during the DLC seasons, I think. And I mean, certainly if I was Ravensburger, I would be a little annoyed at this point,
Sure.
Yeah, and I mean, just to, I don't want to belabor the point because I think this idea is really great, but I just want to say, I think it's one of those things that is, it's frustrating as a tournament organizer, right? Running a big tournament and having to it's like, okay, now I got to get deck lists and I got to, people have them in all different formats from different places, or they're writing them out and stuff. And then you take that with DLCs that have, anywhere from 1,000 to 2,000 people in them, and trying to do that through Google Forms. It's no wonder, honestly, they had so much trouble with deck lists potentially changing a little bit during the event, or trying to track down whose deck list is the right deck list and stuff. It's kind of a logistical nightmare, and it's kind of a wonder that both tournament organizers, well, actually all three, the one in Australia, the PPG here, whoever did it in Europe, managed to kind of do it as well as they did, even with some of the downfalls, because unfortunately Melee wasn't it. But yeah, I'm excited for this new content. When are you hoping to start this?
This week. I already have 3 of the deck lists. I got 2 from Grapes with Ryan and Jimmy both going 3-0. I got 1 from Tuesday where Travis went 3-0, and then I'm hoping that tomorrow night Andy or Kirsten or Ron or anybody at Bodex, and hopefully Manicore with Megan and John possibly out there, are willing to share their decks, and then we'd have a good 5 or 6 decks to talk about Friday night, Saturday morning for a short piece of content. So yeah,
that sounds great. Well, let's move on to Constituents Corner. Take it away, Mr. Mayor.
All right. First question, quick one from Martin Karp. Ravensburger hires you to schedule the DLCs for next season. Where are you putting them?
Hoffman, St. Louis. Next question.
Jimmy asked. Jimmy answered it, and I agree. So, St. Louis. Thanks.
Yeah, I had the same conversation yesterday actually with somebody where it's hard to say St. Louis when you have Dallas, Chicago both happening in the last set. Assuming that they're rotating, St. Louis is right in the middle. So St. Louis, Kansas City. I said even Indianapolis would help hit the middle of the country. Where Gen Con of course happens as well. But between Chicago and Dallas being both above and below the St. Louis, Kansas City area, I don't know that they make a stop there. I would like that for our wallets and such. That there are a couple places here I would think that could host it. Of course, Kansas City's big for things like that as well. So
my outlier is Little Rock, but that's mostly because I want to add more to my presidential library passport.
Oh my goodness!
Oh yeah!
Oh my goodness! Nerd alert! Nerd alert!
I mean, come on! If you're watching this, you're watching about a game about cardboard, and then you see this dude has Legos behind him. Would you be surprised that I'm a freaking nerd? And I don't want to hear this whole thing about Lego versus Legos. Get the fuck out of here.
Whoa!
Whoa!
Mickey alert.
Whoa!
But Oh my god! For that's a reference to our Discord in which I got called out by Greg Miller on Kind of Funny Games Daily the other day when I was correcting him on saying Legos, and he rightfully put me in my place. Given that there are much bigger things to be outraged about than the fact that I'm saying Legos.
So
Shout out to Greg Miller, but it's still Lego. It's Lego.
it is
You
Lego.
are
All
correct. It
caps.
is Lego, all caps.
So this may be a hot take, and I'm sorry to burst your bubble here, Vince, and probably everyone else, but I don't think they're going to be rotating them necessarily.
Think so?
I think that they are only going to move the ones that they didn't have successfully, that weren't as great. So they're going to, Atlanta, the location, if they deem that was good, they're going to keep it. Obviously, I think Seattle, I don't know that there's much that's going to change about Seattle. That seemed to go pretty well. It's in their local area. They probably got that one down. They're just going to keep doing one in Seattle. No reason not to. A lot of these places are going to get to keep them. What we might see is Chicago. I think that Chicago Airport Convention Center area or whatever is not great. I didn't like it. It's not great for going and being able to get food, and we talked about this in previous episodes and stuff. So maybe they try and move that one. Maybe you're right. Maybe something like Kansas City, St. Louis, Indianapolis. Those are all kind of very proximal to Chicago. We'll get the same kind of crowd. So I do think they will move some of them potentially, and potentially add more, but I don't think that they're going to throw away any progress that they've made at any of these other DLCs where an event ran smoothly and they have a good relationship with the vendor, and they potentially could have already booked the next DLC a year from then, with the vendor while they were out there and said, wow, this went really great. Let me go ahead and put it on the books for the next year.
Yeah, I think some of that really depends, though. I don't entirely disagree with that premise. I just think it kind of depends on how long they think they're going to do it. Because the way you would do that is much the way Gen Con does, right? Or these larger conventions do, is they agree for a 10-year commitment to these things. And obviously, I don't think Lorcana is going to do a 10-year commitment, but maybe they did, a 2-year or a 3-year agreement. And that because one, you get better pricing by doing that because you're guaranteeing you're going to come back. So there is some, I think, benefit for them to do that. But I do agree. I would have been surprised had they done that this year because I think they wanted to see what the response was. And I think, I think what's more likely to occur is probably along the lines of what you're saying, Andy, but maybe not in the same place. Maybe they'll keep it in Chicago, but it won't be at that convention center.
Certainly.
It'll be downtown or somewhere else or wherever, and maybe it won't be where it was because it's kind of in suburban Fort Worth. Maybe it'll be somewhere a little bit more urban or whatever that's more connected to a hotel or
maybe
something.
in Houston or something. Maybe just another city over or something.
But yeah, I think that's a pretty good argument.
The one last thing I wanted to plug, I just realized who I was talking to about it last night. It was Dakota and Jackie over at Legends of the Inkwell. They talked about having it in Detroit because they're up there in Michigan, somewhere, that's, relative to, the middle of the Northeast, I guess. But I also wanted to shout them out. They had me on last night for a really cool episode in which we ranked the fake songs and artists throughout all of the Lorcana cards, made a top 10, top 5 list. So I want to give them a special shout out. Thank you for having us on, and can't wait for that episode to drop.
Yeah, nobody wants to go to Detroit. Did you
use
I've never been to Detroit.
Did you use the one I said with the picture?
It's funny. It's funny that you.
You don't have to bring it up. Did it get used though?
No, it's funny.
Find out.
Yeah, you have to listen. Yeah, it'll be audio only. But I got halfway through the list and then somebody used Bruno out of the shadows, and I'm like, oh, that was one of Andy's. And then I realized, oh yeah, I asked in the Discord today for a little bit of help because I was busy with work and I didn't know if I was going to have the time to dedicate to going through all of these cards and finding fake songs and everything. And Andy had some really good ideas. And then when one was mentioned, I'm like, oh yeah, that was one of Andy's, and I'm not using any of the other ones tonight, so he's gonna be so mad. Sorry.
I just wanted to make sure you had good content. If it's audio only, it's fine. Mine was all funned out. And I took
Somebody did say that too. Yep.
Okay, I took the Cusco card and I gave him the emo haircut.
There was a lot of emo rock references, and mostly from me too. Like I referenced My Chemical Romance, like something corporate, and it was just the ongoing theme for the people
And
of
when
our
will
age
that
making music.
podcast be released?
I'm assuming tomorrow. He told me it won't take him long to edit. I didn't see it come out today. If it did come out today, I did not see it.
So
But
if you're listening to this now, it would have come out at least already. So you can go listen to it.
That's Legends of the Inkwell on Spotify, and I believe they have a presence on Instagram where they post everything. So met them in Seattle, really really cool. Showed them. I still have their sticker in my binder from meeting them, but it was a lot of fun, and I can't wait for it to come out.
Next question.
Next question is from Ali Ultran. He asked, "You pull an enchanted. It's your spiritual card. All you wanted. It must be in your deck. Would you do it? Would you extra sleeve it, and thus extra sleeve all of your deck, of course?" And I mean, I play my enchanted. That's an easy answer for me.
Yeah.
I've been trying to get Vince to play the Elsa. I don't know if that's his mecha, like the card that he has to have. But I think there's limitations on which cards do get played for some of us. But I play it. If I get the enchanted and it works in the deck that I'm playing, the colors that I'm into, like anything Blurple. If I get that enchanted Donald Duck, it's going to be a one of in my Blurple, even if it doesn't call for it. But what about you guys?
Of course, yeah. No, I'll play with enchanteds. I mean, it depends on how much they cost to replace, so to speak. So there's a couple of them. Kirsten obviously loves Maleficent, so she has the Sleeping Beauty set, which is all of the enchanters except for the new Aurora. We gotta find one of those. But so she's got all of those. If I play with one of those, then I just have to basically accept that if something were to happen, then
you feel the wrath of Kirsten.
Well, I got to get another one, right? So
yeah.
And Elsa's a little different, right? If something happens to the Elsa, that's $800 to get another one and replace it, which is a little more than is worth it unless I'm playing in in Worlds or something like that, right? Where I know I'm going to be able to recoup that sort of money or whatever. But I definitely play enchanteds at set champs and even sometimes at local events and stuff.
I gave you Morph to use in Seattle.
Yeah, DLCs and stuff like that, and for me at a DLC, being able to look cool and intimidate my opponent was worth the potential of having to, give Brad $100+ for his Morph if I
wouldn't have even asked for it, man.
No, I mean I obviously got to replace it because if I broke I used Kirsten's Diablo too at at that DLC as well. So if I break it, I buy it. So. That's worth it. They're fun. That's why I get them.
Yep. How about you, Vince?
Hermetically sealed.
No, never. I wondered if there were any that you would play, but I guess the answer is just a hard no.
No, I listen. I'm not even. I don't knock people that play them and stuff. I know people really love to foil out their decks and stuff.
Sure.
I don't do any of that. I play with the regular cards, and the answer is I already double sleeve my regular deck anyway.
It's too much. I used to double sleeve it, and I'm like, you know what? The single sleeve is fine now.
No, not with the enchantments. You got to double sleeve it. I use the inner sleeve, the perfect fit, and then an outer sleeve of some sort. And I think that makes it
just seems like so much work
too. It is a lot of work. What I'm starting to do, because I realized, whatever, I have disposable income, is when I put a card in a perfect fit, I just leave it in the perfect fit forever. It means I played it once, and so
that's what I used to do.
And now it costs more because I have to buy a bunch of perfect fits, but I do that, and then at that point now, whenever you make a deck, you're 50%, 60%, 70% of the deck's already got a double sleeve on it. Yeah, it's fine.
I mean, I'm at the point where I just, should probably just start buying a case of the perfect fits, and just so I have them, because I will eventually go through them all.
Yeah, I still have a trove full of perfect fits that I've taken everything out of. I use them all the time, but yeah, I can't. I don't think I could double sleeve every deck. As much as I'm switching cards out of decks and stuff too, I'm like, that's just annoying.
Why
You know,
leave
I
them in the
will say
perfect fit?
it actually makes it, in my opinion, it makes it so much easier to sleeve when
Oh,
they're
really?
like already inner sleeved like that and stuff.
Interesting.
The only thing that sucks is like sometimes like when you're adding new cards. So like when I'm now adding like set 7 cards in, it's like now I've got to, you know, add the perfect fits for those. But those are gonna once they're on there, they never come off. So it's always funny, like when I go through like my play set of cards, they're like some, you know, it's like Hideaway is a great example. Of 4 Hideaways in my play set, only 1 is sleeved because it's the only one that's ever made it into a deck.
When you sleeve them in the perfect fit, do you put them in like
I do, but I think that's wrong,
like
right?
This is wrong, right? You always want to put them in the perfect fit upside down. And then you flip it the right side up to put it in the regular sleeve this way, which
that's how I do it.
You say makes it easier to sleeve, but what ends up happening, depending on the
air
sleeve
bubble.
brand, you get the air bubble and it pops the perfect fit out, which is why, and we're not sponsored, although we should give us money, Dragon Shield. Dragon Shield inner sleeve perfect fits are definitely the best for that. They hug the card the best. The Katana inner sleeves are way too loosey-goosey.
I've always used the Ultra Pro inner sleeves.
Ultra Pro? I haven't tried those maybe. But I know
I've used those for all my board
great.
games, and I transitioned into using them here as well.
But
yeah.
All right.
I think,
well,
yeah. All right. Never mind. I will stop shouting out non-sponsored card sleeve companies next.
No, you're
going to give one more anecdote about that question is that eventually I'm going to max rarity my broom deck. So that's going to involve 4 Yensids, 4 Mickeys. So I will be playing with those enchanteds. And we know next set they're going to have the Mickey Wayward Sorcerer sleeves as well. So those are going to be double sleeve because I'm going to want to use the Mickey sleeves and then the outer protective sleeves to keep those intact.
Double sleeve, triple. So it's triple sleeved. You got to do triple.
It's going to be double. It's going to be only double because I can't. The triple is too big with those plastic sleeves.
Go triple or go home.
All right, the next 3 questions are all related in some degree and going to be probably a big topic of the podcast. From Cody, he's asking, the Saf Steel has found early success. Will it stick around the whole meta for this set?
No. Next question. Ryan Hines asks, okay. Well, I mean, like, probably. It depends. Are you going to keep playing it forever? No, I think, like, I think it's a good deck. And I think no matter what, it's going to be able to do unfair things, as people would say. You know, very strong things. I don't think it will be as, like... I don't know, man. If I actually paid attention to the like alerts on my phone and stuff, like it's blowing up with like, oh my goodness, Sapphire Steel's so broken. But like, you know, I don't know that like if that's the case, then the scales are gonna have to tip the other way, right? Because something's gonna have to come about and it's gonna have to counter this meta. So will it stick around? Probably. It's a cool deck. It's really, really fun to play. Getting a dime off the top is like a straight shot main line of adrenaline. Free items, baby.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where we're not even a week into the new set yet, right? We've had major tournaments and the pros have been practicing, theorizing and flipping cards for hours trying to figure things out, and the top players have all determined that this Sapphire Steel deck is bonkers, and we've seen it doing work. I'm leaning into the idea that we're only a week into the set, and that once more cards are in people's hands, it's enemy number 1, right? Everybody either wants to play it or they want to counter it, and I think that there's going to be people who find exceptional counters to doing it, because if everybody's playing this, I'm the same person that I'm always been. Like, if everybody's playing the same deck, I'm not interested in playing the game, right? Like, I won't be playing that because as fun as it sounds to do it, I know that like in a tournament of constructed 10 people or so, like 6 or 7 of those people are probably playing that or red blue, and I just dare to be different every time and try to find success with my own decks and things that I think would be answers to it. And I think there are plenty of answers out there. Are they consistent? I don't know. But does it stick around the whole set? Probably. Blue Steel's always been something fun to play. It's just got some really, really good tools that we're going to go in depth about a little bit later that makes it a little bit unfair.
Yeah, I do.
What's the next question?
I was going to say real quick, Brad, that at a certain point, I do think a lot of people have the same thought as you, that like, I don't want to play this deck, because they did the same with Diablo and with Bucky. And what ended up happening is you would go places and you'd counter the meta deck that you think everyone's going to be playing, and nobody's playing. There's like 4 people out of like 20 that are playing, and you're like, I don't want to play items. I'm going to bring my Mufasa deck. And it's like 7 Mufasa decks and like 3 item decks. And that's a really good point, because I took Blue Steel to Chicago for the sole reason that we were in the Bucky meta, and I played Bucky one time in like round 3 or 4. And I'm like, oh, okay, it's still a fun deck to play, but I like specifically heavied up on cannons and stuff. So speaking of Bucky and Diablo in that meta, Ryan's addition. Ryan's question was, with the Blue Steel items deck becoming increasingly popular, do we start seeing more discard creep back into the meta, and would it even matter? And I think a lot of people have said in the past week that discard is on the rise, right? Because don't call it a comeback.
Yeah.
We've been here before.
Yeah. I mean, the answer to all these questions, I'll just remind folks, is like, we're not even a week since the set has been released. You're hearing this when it's been just a week from when it's been released, and it is way too early. Every set I feel like we do this same rigmarole, like this card's overpowered, or the meta's destroyed, or like, oh my god, this deck is crazy and stuff, and it's like the same thing over. And I just, what I really need folks to do is breathe. Just take a deep breath. Take it with me right now, and then breathe out. It'll be okay. I promise. Here's the thing: like what both Andy and Brad have said here is true. Is like these decks come in and out of the meta and stuff. What's great at the first week probably won't be that great on week 6 and stuff. It's just that's the nature of this game. Or we'll find answers because people like Brad won't want to play this deck, so they'll be playing other decks to try to find its weakness. And you've got a whole bunch of folks out there that are really talented and really smart, and are trying to find ways to beat this deck. And here's the thing: there's already been success at beating this deck with things like Amber Steel, like a Steel song, go faster, do better. And I think, like Ryan's alluding to, maybe discard is a good answer to try to like kind of stymie that and stuff. Like, are there things that the Blue Steel deck does that are unfair in the game? Yeah, absolutely. But every deck has its like unfair card in the meta. If I will say, like, I could be eating my words 4 weeks from now, or 6 weeks from now, when it's like, oh my god, Blue Steel is unbeatable. I just don't think that's the case. And from the limited amount of games that I've seen, I haven't seen
like 3
case either. Right? Yeah. I mean, like exactly.
I played it firsthand into Ace at Grapes this past weekend, and I was playing Karsten's Jafar Wheel deck. And on the play, I found success in just having the tools to get Tammy off the board as soon as he comes out, and taking. And of course, I was on the play, so a little bit of the advantage. But I mean, you tech your deck just right, and you draw at the right time. You have the answers there to deal with it. And it was my first time playing Jafar Wheel too. So maybe there might've been issues where I definitely piloted it wrong against Baja Blast the round before, but we won't get into that. But a player like Ace, who's really good, playing the Blue Steel, and I found one win out of 3 there. I was like, okay, this deck isn't invincible. I just happened to draw what I needed at the right point, and maybe being the first week of the game, my deck's not optimized either, which is something that I've said about. Karsten released 5 or 6 different decks, and I think he made them, and it's the mind of Frank Karsten, right? So I'm not even somebody to question him, but having those 6 decks before the set comes out and then writing an article about what they can do, I'm like, are these really fully optimized when the meta's not even established yet? So it's just a starting point.
Yeah.
And the fact that I could take one of those 3 games was like, okay, now I add another last ditch effort and remove something else, and start tinkering with it. And I think you'll just continually find success, or a little bit more success, the more that you do that.
So I do think that the discard deck, the Diablo deck, is still very strong. I'm actually kind of disappointed. Ace, what's going on, buddy? Why didn't you stick with Emerald Steel? Don't abandon your boy Diablo that quickly. Pete, Big Pete is a great addition to it.
Space Pirate.
Yeah, the one that gets resist, right? When it's exerted, helps your Smees. Smee is back in it as well. Yeah, Brad's got one.
Yeah, he when he's exerted, all pirates have resist +1, so your Smee doesn't take the damage at the end of turn. And when he's exerted, nobody can exert to sing songs.
Yeah.
So hard counter to steal song.
And discard is absolutely one of the answers to that deck. We'll talk about it more. I've tested it quite a bunch already. It's been the main one I've been testing for the first couple days here. We'll talk about
I'm going to interject here to remind folks that if you aren't watching it, you absolutely should. Tuesdays, Andy and Kirsten are doing Deck Tech Tuesdays, which is great. I'm sorry I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I wanted to make sure that people know that we're doing this, because you guys are doing a lot of great work and they're really fun to watch.
Thank you.
I couldn't tune in this week.
We had a lot of fun. Well, I did. Kirsten didn't as much. Although to be fair, she won one of the best of 3s, and I won one of the best of 3s. I found that we'll get into it more later in the podcast. But yeah, I think the discard and Diablo deck is still very viable, almost regardless of blue steel. It's a good deck, and I think we'll continue to see it. The SSG 10K tournament that was dominated by Sapphire items and stuff. I think Emerald Steel took top 4 or something like that. It was up there. So it's definitely not gone. Top 8, sorry. Shout out to Kylie, whoever that is. But yeah. So yeah, I think it's still an option. Definitely continue on it if you want.
Yeah. From John, our next question: Realm of hypothetical. If Ravensburger were to deem the item package too oppressive to the meta and needed to rein it in, what would be the best way to do it? Especially after so much money has been spent on Ozzy, Scrooge, and Tammy at this point. Bonus points if your solution doesn't completely nuke Ruby Sapphire or Sapphire Steel decks too.
Easy.
And go ahead. You go first.
No, you go ahead. You go first. You got it.
Thank you.
You're not gonna take mine anyway.
Yeah, I have been on the train. I've said this on multiple platforms a while. A lot of people have been on the ban Hiram train for the last couple sets, at least. Say these two draw too much, draws way too much, and I'm like, well, Sapphire needs draw. At least at the time he came out, Sapphire needed draw. Well, now he's drawing too much. Well, blah 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 blah. I don't think Hiram's the problem. I think the problem is the one cost inkable items that Blue Steel has, or just Blue in general has, that replace themselves, especially this Popsicle especially. And if there was anything they could do to make that Popsicle, I think just taking the Popsicle out it's hard to imagine because it's such a simple card. But the fact that you don't do the Hiram package without Popsicle, and then you just double it with Fortisphere in Blue Steel, that's why Blue Steel is going to shine here now. It's because those one cost items replace themselves. He gets 2 items off of popping one of them. Tamatoa brings them back. I think the best way to do it either is ban, and I don't like calling for bans, so forgive me, but either ban Popsicle or Popsicle be something errata like Jumbo Pop is right now, where Jumbo Pop I don't think has ever been played in the history of Lorcana, but it's the kind of card that I think Popsicle at this point of the game should be, where it's uninkable. It's a 3 cost. I think you have to banish it to draw the card, but it also heals. It does what a Popsicle does. I don't have it in front of me, and it's almost like I have a computer in front of me where I could look it up. But that was my solution: is errata the popsicle, ban the popsicle, or make it or errata it to make it more like Jumble Pop or something to where it's less intrusive, I guess. I don't think intrusive is the right word, but it's something. It's the popsicle in my mind where I'm honing in on being the problem.
Fair enough.
What about you guys? Yeah.
I think honestly it's the Belle. I know I've said before, I think the Belle deserves to be in the bulk bin, and honestly I do still think I don't know that I agree that I don't think Ravensburger will deem the item package too oppressive. And that's why John says if, and that's why in the realm of hypotheticals. But if it is, I think the biggest thing that enabled so much of this is that 3-cost Belle, 3-3 Belle that you can play for free if you just banish an item. Because what that means is before Ozzy, the Scrooge and the Tammy are new, but Big Tammy, Ozzy, Maurice's Workshop, Fishbone, all of these item-based decks, Hiram, the Popsicle, the double Hiram, and the Hiram and Popsicle and Fortisphere existing in a deck. All of this was there already. You could argue that 6-cost Tammy is a slightly better version of Big Tammy and kind of helps you on that journey to Big Tammy, right? Because now you can play the 6-cost, get a couple items back sooner than you could have with the Big Tammy. You can play them, keep drawing them with your Hiram. You can then you quest with the medium Tammy to get an item for free.
Happy Tammy.
Happy Tammy. Okay.
That's what we've deemed him.
Happy Tammy.
Why not beautiful Tammy?
Beautiful Tammy.
I'm beautiful, baby.
So you can quest them, get the dime out early, and then you play the big Tamatoa. But the same thing still existed in that all of this setup for all of these items for this big payout, which is basically 0 to 20 instantaneously with Tamatoas and Lucky Dimes, because of things like Oswald's and Fishbones, and all of that comes at the cost of basically doing nothing. Like you realize there's another person in this game that you're playing against that has played 2 Daisy Ducks already and like a Lilo, and that has the all in on items has never really worked before. So I think the Belle's the problem. Being able to throw away the item, play the Belle, have a board presence, be able to sing that song in steel to control the board a little more.
And even if you're not singing strength or any of that, you just attack with her. She's got a 3 body.
I'll be honest with you. I kind of reject the whole I'd reject the whole premise here of the question, really, right? Like, which is that, my view on this, what Ravensburger should do is what they're doing. Let's see the cards in Reign of Jafar. And then I'll.
Well, I already said if. He said if.
I know he
gave him the benefit of the doubt.
I know he said if, but you know what? You both have rejected the premises of questions before, and I'm usually the stickler that gets you back to the question. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to take my one little thing and reject the premise of this question. Because here's the thing. When it comes to one thing I have just kind of having now been a little bit more of experience of a TCG player and stuff, it's like when I look at the totality of what I don't think should happen is if a card is particularly oppressive in one set, it should be errataed or banned. Is that what needs to happen is looking at the totality of the game itself and where it's going. Because here's the thing, it's like, I think it's hard to know because it got errataed, but I think it's pretty clear that Bucky would still be it would have been a pretty impressive card going forward had it not been errataed.
Maybe.
Maybe so I just think we just don't know. And frankly, I just don't think the evidence doesn't exist that anything is over oppressive or anything. Like, I know a lot of people are complaining about this Belle, but quite frankly, like, this Belle is, in my opinion, less oppressive than the one, except for the fact that it's inkable, which is, a big deal, but is that it is less oppressive than Daisy, Donald's Date. It's a 1-drop quest for 2. It's a 1/4.
The difference is that, well, I mean, and
You're
we'll
playing
get
it for
into this,
free.
right? We'll get into this more later when we in our main segment here. I just wanted to mainly focus on what he was talking about. Vince doesn't want to errata it. I also don't really want to, but if I had to, I think the Belle is the problem, and I think the answer would be to make her cost 2 less if you banish an item. So you can't play her for free on turn 1. You could play her for 1, with an item gone, which would probably make her unplayable. And really, any of these erratas we've ever talked about on this podcast, basically just, the slightest touch of an errata on a card typically sends it from broken to unplayable pretty quick. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. If you're gonna make a change, that's where the change would be. But I just don't see it being necessary.
I kind of
We'll probably talk
agree.
more about Belle here soon. Yeah.
Next question.
All right, last one from Disney Dad Canada. I said it right this time. Almost didn't. Mike, he asked, week 1 of Arcasia's, he put AA's, I think he meant AI's release, is seeing some huge demand in sales numbers for playable cards, both old and new. What card or cards took you by surprise by being chases for players? Set 7 decks.
Wait,
and I think
AI is buying cards online now?
Oh no, it's over.
AI has been released by huge demand on and buying cards. Is the AI using partner.tcgplayer.com/ROV? Because if not, the that AI is just really missing out on an opportunity to support his favorite, his or her or their whatever
favorite podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. So partner.tcgplayer.com/ROV.
/ROV.
Almost forgot my most important part.
My answer to that would be Oswald. We just talked about him in John's question, where he was kind of a gimmick in the last set. Really cool card that came out. And
what?
Agreed. Hot take. Not a good card. Still not good.
But you also said that about the Mickey card that came out this set, and you've had some fun playing my Jafar wheel with it. Last 2 nights ago.
I have said something, but I like I told you when we played that I was fine saying I was wrong about that card, but I even said when we were playing that I still stand by my Oswald critique.
Yeah, I know.
They're both bad. Anyway.
But still, he's finding a lot more value than it did in the previous set. When I played Oswald last set, it was very much a gimmick deck where I was just spamming items. I did the Forbidden Mountains blue-yellow item rush deck with Ariel and everything, and Oswald was a lot of fun to trigger and do all that. Getting a dime on turn 3 off the top is insane for the rest of the game, right? They're not doing anything about that dime, and you could just you know how the dime works. So him now slotting into the Sapphire Steel deck and hitting those items. I think people are running 20, 22 items and mostly hitting those items. But then on the flip side, we saw on the stream over the weekend at SSG that there's a lot of times where he doesn't. And then that kind of really, really sucks. But that's my surprise one, because I think that's like a $30 card right now. And he used to be pennies.
I think one I saw that was kind of interesting. Someone told me that Strength of the Raging Fire is gone up a bunch in price, which honestly, I'm really not surprised. Because Belle can sing it, but the more and more Strength is a rare, right? It's a rare card versus Storm, which is the common card, and more we are seeing an uncommon whatever. And more we're seeing decks favor having Strength in their deck and not Storm because of the inkability factor and because of the larger upside. So in the first couple turns, Strength isn't as good, but you can build up a larger board and then Strength becomes much better. So even decks like like all these curved decks that we're seeing from last set. All the attempts at Ruby Steel, all the attempts at some of the Emerald Steel one that I built, the Harlan Sweet Kiwi Birds one, the only action, the only fight back song they got is this Strength of the Raging Fire.
Yep.
And so I'm kind of like surprised it took this long for people to be like, oh shoot, I need more of these.
And that card has always been one of the harder ones to get. Like even the rares sometimes seem pretty easy to get. I don't even think I have a playset of Strength because it's one of the cards I could not pull. But one thing I want to let everybody know who might not know, I know Kristen didn't over at Grapes, was that there is one of them. If you have the Ursula Illumineers quest, one of the pre-built decks in there has that card in it. So if you're looking for an extra one, there's one in there in case you didn't know.
So and
well, I mean, I just want to give some context on
$60 for an Illumineers quest, and you
I'm
get
not saying
pay that.
Fire.
Yeah.
If you already have it,
So I just want to say it's so when you look here online for Oswald, prior to the set release, it was roughly about a $7-8 card.
Now it's like $30, right?
And now it's going for about 27, 28. Yeah.
Yeesh.
So kind of in that range. But Strength has actually not had as much of a price increase as you might think. So it has actually always been a fairly valuable card, generally roughly being around between $11 and $15, kind of depending on what deck's been in the meta. But it has seen a spike. So now we're seeing it about $20 with shipping included on TCG Player. So it's gone up about $7. I would say since the set release, but not nearly as big of a drop. It's always surprised me how expensive Strength of Raging Fire has been, because like when I go through and kind of sort through my cards and I'm looking, I'm like, always like, oh, this card, because I very rarely play Steel a lot except for for fun sometimes. But what's that look you're giving me?
Who?
What?
You, Brad.
Me?
Yeah.
No, that's just me looking. I agree with you. You never play Steel.
Resting disapproval face.
Yeah. Resting disapproval face. But I'll say I will say I think the thing that has surprised me the most so far is how much people complained about the Emerald Coil. And we don't really see it being played at all.
Sapphire Coil.
Sapphire or Emerald?
The Sapphire Coil.
Oh, that you don't see it played because you're not watching enough, binging enough Lorcana in the first week here. The Sapphire Coil is like the hot addition to Ruby Sapphire, and it definitely does work because it basically extra turns on all of the like Sisu and the Brawl and the little Sisu and big Sisu. So Sailor actually played it in the LCCC,
CCCC.
Yeah, the LCCC versus Specky, and he was able to win one of the games where he got a lot of the I think he got the coil out there and made some good plays, but especially he had like a crazy hyper aggro list. It was insane. He was
Amethyst Steel, $43 untested deck, and he took down Sailor. It was insane.
The name was $43 and 0 games tested.
Yeah. All right. Ready to move on?
I was born ready.
All right. If you'd like your questions answered by the villains in the future, be sure to comment on this video on YouTube, our socials, or join our Discord where you can comment in the Constituents Corner channel. Back to you, Vince.
All right, guys, we're moving into our main segment, and we still got Villain of the Week. We have 22 minutes left. We got it. Run this.
We got it. Wow. How was your sealed over the weekend, guys?
I didn't actually play any.
14-2.
14-2.
14-2. That was my record in all of my events.
Wow. How many did you play?
I did 4 sealed events, and 1 draft.
Dang.
So 4 3-round events and 1 4-round event for 16 total games. I went 3-0, 3-0, 3-0, 2-1, and 3-1.
And you were 1 game shy of getting a whole box
Yes,
of product for free.
The 3-1 was a devastating loss. 4-0's got a box there. I kind of didn't realize it until after I was already getting my butt whooped in that round. So it was unfortunate. But I had a ton of fun. I played one that was run by you guys, which was great. And I was able to go 3-0 and win that one as well.
What'd you get for that?
I got an extra pack for the win. I got a playmat, but
You gave it to our number 1 fan.
I had to concede it to the actual best player at the event, which was Reed, one of our teammates. I had the honor of sitting next to him when he got the Donald Duck off and won the game because of it. So
yeah, I love that. He was so excited when he pulled that card too.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah,
So,
I built his deck for that, and Heather was like, "He wants that card in," and I was like, "Yeah, of course he wants that card." I was like,
absolutely,
we're gonna make that happen.
We can. It's a beautiful card, and we can extend the game to 25. Let's do it.
The best moment though had to have been it makes sense now because you say that Vince built his deck for him. One of the games he was playing.
Oh God, I don't.
We were sitting there. I'm playing against Heather, and Heather has to, help him out every now and then to help him go what's on. And one time he gets stuck, and so Heather has to help him out. And she looks over, and he has no inkable cards to play, and nothing that he can afford to play. So basically, he's confused because he doesn't get to do anything for this turn, and it was really unfortunate. And she was like, "Well, buddy, that's that's just how it is. You're not gonna be able to do anything."
Breaks.
Yep, that's it. And he just goes, "Oh man, I'm bricked." And we died. His opponent almost couldn't even continue on to the next turn. It was so
that's
funny.
Adorable.
It was so adorable. I didn't realize how well versed he was in TCG terminology. He was like, "Oh man, I'm bricked."
And that melts my heart. Every story about him.
Yeah, you are, buddy. Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
Just a quick anecdote, real quick, before you move on, Vince. Heather told us last week that I hope she doesn't mind me sharing this story.
This is what I was actually going to share.
Oh, you go for it. Go for it. Then.
No, you're already in the midst of it.
Yeah, they had a spirit day at school. And it was wear your favorite team's jersey. It could be a Cardinals or the Blues or some local team, whatever you're a fan of.
Who?
And he wore the
one.
Yeah, he wore the Rules of Villainy jersey that we got, or that Heather bought for our team, and it just melted me. She showed me that at Fortuna last Wednesday, and then I showed you guys the next time I saw you, and man, or I didn't. Yeah, she put it in the Discord, and I was just like.
Yeah,
it's the sweetest thing, man. That kid loves us, and we love him. He's so great.
The best part of that story, though, is how she was explaining that when he wanted to wear the jersey, because she asked him, and he was like, "Rules of Villainy, rules of Villainy."
Man,
I was like. You're gonna make me cry, and then I was like, "Tough man," because he'll actually cry right now.
I actually will. And I'm tearing up right now just of all the sweet stories. Like the first time we met him, and we walked him through the game, and he beat us. He beat us, but he went home and told his dad that he beat the boss of Lorcana. And I'm like, that means so much to him, right? To go home and be so excited about that. And we did the Baymax knuckle this past Monday. And he knuckled me, and I'm like, "Hey, no, let's do it like Baymax." Boom. He knew exactly what I was talking about. God, he's the best. Anyway, that was a tangent.
Yeah, how was your sealed, Brad? Did you do any?
I did one at Grapes. I went 2-0, 0-2, 2-0. It it was a lot of fun. I took a lot of advice from both Andy and Kirsten's live stream, and Katie over at Lore Keepers Inn. I've watched a few of her videos as well. And it helped out. There were times I opened up cards. I'm like, oh yeah, this is one of the ones they talked about being like, this is the one. What is it? Perla, I think, was one that you were very, very heavy on your stream, and she came in clutch. I made, I of course did Brad things where I played the new like 6-cost Hades, 6-cost uninkable, but I had the bodies. Yeah, I had the bodies to put 2 damage on to completely banish unexerted things, right, and keep the tempo going for myself. So it worked out. But then the next game against Alec, who 2-0'd me, I bricked really hard. I made a really bad mistake that I wish I immediately forgot, but I knew that it was a mistake as soon as he wiped my board because of it the next turn or two. And then I went into full like, well, this sucks mode. It was also tired. I went into this like phase of like I was high on the first game, or like going into the first game, and then I was in my low, like kind of winding down in the game against Alec, and I feel bad because I feel like sometimes I come off as like a poor sport, which I hope that he doesn't think that I'm being rude intentionally at all.
Brad. Nobody thinks that.
But then I kind of came down. And I got really low, and I'm just like, I'm ready to go home. And then the next game I played Anna, who I haven't seen in forever, one of the Grapes OGs, and and I just kind of perked back up and just like, this doesn't matter. We're just having fun, and and then I was really loopy and shouting like Jebediah because she was so excited Jebediah was in this game, and so one of the ladies at a table like 3 tables down was just laughing at me, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm being loud and obnoxious right now. I need to cool it. So it's always a great time over there. That's the only one I did. Like I said, yeah, 2-1, but had a blast. I wish I had time to do more, but it's hard anymore for me to actually play the game. I spend more time podcasting and talking about the game than I do getting to play it, but I enjoy it either way. So
yeah. Well, let's get into some of the early meta stuff here. So, Annie, you kind of want to walk us through this a little bit? You've been, I think, probably keeping tabs of it the most.
Yeah, so super early meta. In fact, we've gone so early in the meta that we're actually going to time travel back in time to set 1. And I just wanted to point out that while I was looking up meta lists for this segment, that I found there was an over 200 person tournament in Osaka, Japan with set 1 only, and Ruby Amethyst took first place. Let's go, as it should.
Oh, imagine that.
I wanted to point out that 2 of the top 4 were Emerald Amethyst evasive lists, which is pretty cool to see, because honestly, I've been playing this game since the beginning. I definitely do not recall that deck being particularly prominent in set 1. So yeah, that's a fun little trip back down to memory lane before we talk about the current meta, the 5-day-old meta that is Azurite at Arcasia's Island.
It's so wild to see some of these cards in here that were like absolute staples of set 1, like Dragonfire and Aladdin Street Rat and the Aladdin Heroic Outlaw.
Oh, that's a good one.
It's such a good card. I remember in the early days of just trying to find these cards to put in my deck to build. So yeah, real fun times.
Absolutely. So we had Arcasia's Island this first couple days we've had of the new meta here. We had an SSG 10 case tourney. I don't know how these people do it. Really, whatever your secret is at Southside Gaming, hit us up. Let us know. I'd love to find out the behind the scenes of this. But 10 cases, that's insane pricing that you guys are able to host these events. It's really awesome. They had over 100 people there, and I think the biggest thing we learned was that Sapphire Steel free items is kind of busted, right? It kind of dominated the event. We did also see Ruby Sapphire Emerald Sapphire did fairly well. I think what else we saw, like a Steel Song in there.
Emerald Steel.
Top four were 2 Emerald Seals, or not Emerald Seals, Sapphire Seals, 2 Ruby Sapphires, and then we got Emerald Steel, Emerald Amethyst, a Emerald Amber, and then another. Rounding out the top 8 was another Sapphire Steel. So
Yeah.
a lot of Sapphire in there. 2 of which, the top 2, or the first place and third place were Jeremy and Zan from the Club Lorcana podcast, but you know, and that was that's the Zan deck, right?
And 2 of those though that were in the bottom half of the top 8 were actually like aggro, more the like a altered version of the sweet
really
aggro deck that came pretty popular in
Kiwi Birds.
Yeah, that's the other interesting part, honestly, about the Sapphire Steel list, is that basically there's like 2 versions of it. I've been heavily testing what I would call the more fun version, but frankly, after testing, I think it may be the less good version. Maybe it's Zan's list, essentially card for card. It goes all in on the items with the Oswald and the Belle, both Tammys. There's a lot of really great things to it. For me, it feels very much like I would say it's a Zan list, right? It feels very much like the Diablo list. You need to get the sort of opening, like a good line on your opening, and if you don't, it can be really, really, really bad. But if you do, oh my goodness, it can be like impossible to deal with as an opponent to it. And so I think the general concept for those who aren't aware, I guess, is you play something like a Popsicle or a Fortisphere on turn 1. You play the Belle, the 3-cost 3/3 on by throwing away the Popsicle or the Fortisphere. What's a really interesting part about this is that you actually get up to 15 cards in your mulligan or your altar for this, because when you play the Popsicle or the Fortisphere, you're going to draw another card. So there's been times where I haven't had the Belle in my hand, played the Fortisphere, draw a card, boom, there's the Belle. Now I've just sort of saved my hand. Better lucky than good, as they say.
Yeah.
And you play the Belle out for free. And now what you have is this turn 1 Cinderella. It's the Cinderella from Diggy. It's Cinderella from Steel Song. It allows you to sing Strength of a Raging Fire, Let the Storm Rage on turn 2, on anything that they play on turn 1, to basically just huge tempo loss for them. And the biggest upside is that this Belle is a 3/3. So even on the draw, they play, let's say they play their Cindy and you play your Belle on turn 1, they can't remove your Belle. And if they sing or do anything with their Cindy, you can take it out with your Belle. And then something like even like a Calhoun or a Smee trades with this Belle. Whereas the Cindy previously would just get removed for free. So that early game control allows you to just basically go crazy with the Aussie items package, do some fun Tamatoa stuff with beautiful Tammy and
beautiful baby.
I have been playing it a bunch, and it's a lot of fun when it works. And when you win the game, you typically win the game in 1 to 2 turns, 0 to 20 lore, just like that. But it really, really does feel like a high roll, or like an altar game. You know, you gotta get the perfect altar and get them the nuts hand, or else you're kind of hurting.
Yep.
Yeah, I you know, the thing that really strikes me as most interesting about this tournament is top 64. One deck is a Ruby Amethyst deck.
That's actually pretty wild.
Yeah, really wild.
I don't know that they got Ruby Amethyst got a whole lot this set, and we say this every set. It doesn't need it. It's
I'm just
reliable.
I was
You know,
gonna say, I don't think it's still. I still don't really think it
They
needs it.
played
And I think
Donald too.
I think we
Get it around
will probably see a version of Ruby Amethyst
Wow.
find its way.
This is a wild list. The top 60. Oh, this is 56th. So maybe this isn't. This is the only. Yeah, this is the only Ruby Amethyst list I can find. This is a wild list. It only has 2 goats.
It is a wild list.
Only
I'm
2
looking at one
goats.
with 4 goats by LSP Terrace. 39th at SSG. Yeah.
You're looking at.
Oh, there's a couple of them. Vince's stat is wrong. Top 64. There's multiple Ruby Amethyst. LSP Terrace, Colton, USA Card Supply, and Demetrius.
Hey,
from,
Demetrius. Lumineers, yeah.
List that is interesting. I should just hit him up about it. He's got 2 Super Goose, which I love, but he only has 2 goats.
You do
Only
love
2 goats.
Super.
I wonder if
I do like
he's
this
playing
inclusion.
Heartless Hunter. Let's go.
And
I
he's
do
playing-
like this inclusion of Donald Duck though. To see that actually in a deck, really kind of fun.
I think that duck has a lot of tech options.
He's also
Like
playing the Queen, which I think is really good into these item decks. They throw those items away thinking, I'll just get them later with my Tamatoa. Not. I'm going to get 3 lore off of them.
But actually, it's also a great counter to the Belle, because if the Belle goes into
the Belle Princess,
discard, the Belle's a princess.
Oh, wow, that's goated. All right.
Yeah.
It's almost like
Actually,
Ravensburger knows what they're doing and they plan this all along. Wow.
So I didn't realize that. I was playing today. We were doing a multiplayer, and Cody did that to me today with tonight with the Queen. Yeah.
Very
so
so yeah, I guess really when it comes down to it, the question is just like, what were the 2 cards that Demetrius felt were more important than these other 2 goats? Because man, I do love me some goat.
The real question is like I think the equation is like, how long does Flynn Rider stay in that deck? Because that's always the card that tends to be the most contentious card.
I wouldn't have put it in here.
Ruby Amethyst, and I feel like this set might be the one where it finds its way out.
Yes,
because it's not as effective.
I'm gonna mail Demetrius 4 Rajas and say, my brother in Christ, play this instead of Flynn Rider, please. Here it is, Raja. Look, I have a foil one. This is the way.
Gotta say the full foils.
They are pretty nice.
Really great. Really
nice.
Like
them.
Well done.
Very, very good. I'm interested. I want to touch on real quickly before we move on. Wow, I got word vomit there. The one of the top 8, I guess 7th place. The Amber Emerald is basically a version of what I was running Monday night against you, Vince. Kind of a Chernabog deck with the Lady and the Tramp cards to kind of roll through your deck as fast as possible, because that 7-cost tramp allows you to draw as many characters as you have on board, but then also discard. But that essentially gets you a free Chernabog like super early in the game, and then rinse and repeat for the rest of it. The deck fascinates. This is probably a much more optimized one than the one I threw together. Of course, I threw Mufasa in mine because Mufasa, but I find this decks like this kind of fascinating. This one has a lot more inkable than the early versions that I saw from like Earl Meister or Dick Burns over at the Forbidden Mountain. They were running in a godly amount of uninkables.
Yeah, it was like a C tier list though, at least, right?
Oh, of course.
I mean,
Dick Burns created it. Yeah,
they fit in there. I don't know. What are these? I don't know if you watched their stream, but I did, and I commented. Look at these. Look at these C tier casters.
At some point, we have to address it. Like with them that hey. this all stemmed from something Dick said, and we
Oh
started.
no, they know. They were joking about it.
Okay, okay.
So they're
Good.
like, look at rules ability in here.
Yeah, here talking a bunch of
you could hear Dan chuckle when he read the comment, and then they put it up, and they're like, "Rule." And Dan is like, Dick Burns is like, "Rule causing some trouble."
Yeah. I love those guys. Funny, like I need to meet them. I couldn't believe how excited I was because at the time of Atlanta, sorry, another tangent. I saw all of them in their uniform. This is my first DLC, of course, most of ours, and I saw them all in their uniforms and stuff or their jerseys. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. I know them from Facebook, but I was too scared to go say anything to them. And then 2 DLCs later, Chicago and Seattle, I still didn't get to talk to any of them, and part of it was just my cowardice and going up and being like, hey guys, I'm a big fan, you know.
You know what's wild is at one point people are going to be coming up to us at these DLCs.
No.
No.
Me?
Anyway.
Yeah, right.
I'm just saying.
This
saying it's going to happen, and
Emerald
I'm not
list
prepared for it.
is interesting.
Yeah, what do you think about it, Andy?
I don't know that I agree with this Yzma. 2 cost 2/2. When you play this character, you may draw a card, then choose and discard a card. Meh?
Yeah.
I feel like there's definitely got to be a better card to slot in there. At the 2 slot there.
The whole point of the deck is to get stuff in your discard though, and get that Chernobog out. There's probably something better for sure. And again, this is the first weekend of the set, so I'm sure this is going to get edited. But
one pushback I'll have to you on that, Andy, is that it's also not a bad filter card to find.
Yeah, it costs too much.
Yeah, I mean,
Mulan,
sure.
Simba, and Steel both are cheaper. Like I just
in Steel, you're trying to work within the confines.
What do you need to do that? Like you're talking about putting cards in your discard for Chernobog, but I really don't know that. You know, the big win on that is the Tramp that lets you draw and discard a bunch of them. The other thing that I'm not on board with entirely is the Lady. You play 4 1-cost ladies, and you only have 2 shift ladies. So
I agree with that.
Get more shift ladies or drop the 1-cost lady, because like it's a 1/2 that forces you to play this Tramp card, which really is not that great. It has a 1-cost stat line of 1/3. You can play it cheaper, and it gives the plus. Like I don't know. You need them to combo together, and I just don't know that Tramp is that great, especially because you never really want to be challenging back into your opponent. So you're never really going to use that second ability on the Tramp.
Sure.
So I feel like there's, you should just like jump in the deep end of aggro here. I like the other lists that I saw. I think you shared one with me, and Kirsten. We were like looking at ones for Deck Test Tuesday, that had the Olivia, and like generally I'm not the biggest fan of these decks that just basically play a character and say, okay, answer it or I win.
This deck doesn't have the Piglet, don't you? You have the Piglet in your deck, or don't you?
Yeah, this is vastly different than the one I tested on Monday, but the fact that it's top 8 out of 100 and something person tournament, means there's something there. And again, it's the first weekend of the set, so I'm assuming that
all these free items lists, all these Zan free items lists, then aggro just runs all over that for sure.
Yeah. So, I feel like there's something there, and of course, you're knocking this Tramp card, but Jock is in the background on it, so I feel like it earns a spot in the deck for me.
Yeah.
All right. Any last thoughts about any of these?
Yeah. Well, I wanted to also mention the LCCC, the LCCC.
Great, you mentioned it. Now we move on.
It's got a lot of Sapphire in it, a lot of Sapphire Steel. I think we see both variants, the free items and the more Kiwi Birds, the more curve out list. A lot of Ruby Sapphire lists as well. But I do want to call a shout out to Domingo.
Yes.
Only one playing Ruby Amethyst. And honestly, Domingo is an amazing player and deserves to be here, and I commend everything he's doing. he's gone off the deep end, mate. This list
Did you
is
see?
insane. This list
Did you see how
is
it did?
insane. Did it? I did not. Don't spoil it. Now I need to watch it because I tried it. I saw it and I was so excited, and I've been testing it, and I did it once. And it was honestly, it brought a tear to my eye. For those who don't know, he is playing a Ruby Amethyst Mill list. It has your classic Ruby control tools, a lot of the classic Amethyst tools as well, but it has cards like Mad Hatter. It has the Mad Hatter's Teapot, the Amethyst Chromacon, 4 Show Me Mores, for A Very Merry Unbirthday. It has the Madame Medusa Diamond Lover that mills 3 cards. The concept is amazing. It makes me think that Domingo did all the same testing that everyone else did, came to the same conclusion as Zan and a lot of these other players and said, wow, free items is insane, right? Well, I got
shame if they're all in your discard.
Yeah, be it if I made you discard your entire deck. Because you know what? I played some more games. I was playing the free items list against Kirsten's Steel Song list, and one of the games I made a misplay. We counted as me winning because I just didn't count right, and I drew an extra card that I didn't actually need to win the game. But the reason she won, quote unquote, was because she milled me. Because I didn't count my cards right, and she played a whole new world, and I ran out of cards, and that's not that uncommon. So, you know,
I'm happy to welcome Kirsten to the I've Milled Andy Club.
Yeah, I welcome a world where you are. Does free items Sapphire Steel have you down? Do you just constantly go to your LGS and everyone is playing the same meta deck over and over again? Well, do I have the solution for you? It's called Mill. Ruby Amethyst Mill.
Yeah, I wish you would have watched the game today, man. I really do, because I would love to talk about it, but since I can't spoil it, I won't.
Well, we could save it for for another show. Anything else before we move on to Villain of the Week? All right. Villain of the Week. Apologies to Gantu. Of course, it should be no surprise that this week's villain is Belle, Apprentice Inventor. Set 7 Arcadia's Island card, 3 cost Inkable in Sapphire, 3 strength, 3 willpower, Storyborn Hero Princess Inventor, quest for 1, and its ability is What a Mess. During your turn, you may banish chosen item of yours to play this character for free. In the flavor text, helping her dad keep the flying debris to a minimum. And art by Jochem van Gool. And it's a common card.
So I just first want to point out the awesome art lore tie-in. I believe Belle is holding the unconventional tool in her hand. Is that accurate? The ruby item.
I will go look.
Yeah, look at that. I believe that item she is holding in her hand is unconventional.
It is.
Looks like it. It looks like it.
Yeah. And so that's kind of nifty, especially because when you think about it, the sort of magical Christmas land dream line with this Belle is you play the unconventional tool in 1, you banish that with the Belle, and when it's banished, it's a triggered ability. You get 2 less cost for the next item you play, and now you can play another item or a 2 cost,
Sapphire Coil,
like a Sapphire Coil for free. And so it is really nifty that she's holding that. But yeah, what have we not said about this card? It is pretty impressive, right?
I'll tell you what we haven't said. She has a shift target in this game as well.
Yeah.
Or she's the target for a shift as well. A 9 cost, which Kirsten pulled in her enchanting, which she kept secret that it was her birthday, apparently, by the way. I got a little bit of beef with that because I would have wished her so much sooner a happy birthday. But yeah, beautiful, beautiful card. which is also by the artist of the Belle. But
Jochem van Gool, yeah, same artist.
yeah, it's
Shout out Jochem.
yeah, I don't know the impact of that shift card at the moment. Everybody's talking about Sapphire Steel at the moment, but I feel like that red blue Belle is pretty good. Do you guys know if the red blue decks are running one of two of those? Or I know John's high on it.
Yeah, they're running a couple of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, usually one or two of them in the Ruby Sapphire item list because, being a shift target, having, costing one less for each item in your discard is really nice, especially when you have Hiram. You on face value, a lot of these cards may have like anti-synergy to them, right? You throw away an item to get the Belle out there. Well, now you don't have that item for Hiram, right? You take the two items out of your discard with a Tomato. Well, now you don't have them in there for that Belle shift. But when it comes down to it, you just kind of like play this dance where you like shift the Belle and then play the Hiram and take all the items back, or the Tomato and take all the items back and feed them back to your Hiram later. So it ends up working fairly nice. The Belle shift target works well. But I think just even without the shift target, this card is just like really insane, right? Like a one.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's basically a one cost 3/3.
Yeah,
Like
that's
things for
exactly what
free.
it is. Yep.
Yeah, it's just a beefier Cindy. You've already touched on that. Cindy comes out 1/2, sings 3-cost songs. She comes out for free. Well, the cost of a 1-cost item, can sing those songs. And unlike Cindy, if she don't have the song to sing on something, she can just run into it. And you're playing popsicles. If you want to keep her around, just play a popsicle and heal her. She's wild. She's absolutely wild.
The kind of
and she's common.
The value she gets is just really great because like the ideal, which is a very common play line, right? Not Magic Christmas Land, is you're playing something like a Fortisphere or a Popsicle. So you're playing a card, you're drawing a card, so you're getting the replacement, then you're banishing the card, and then you're playing this. So this card really mostly is a 1/3/3 draw a card, is really what this card is when you think about it, which is just kind of wild.
It's a 1/3/3 draw a card, discard an item, right?
Yeah, discard an item.
So you technically are -1 still, right? You because you played 2 cards and only drew 1. But yeah, that is
a 3/3 on turn 1 for free is just absolutely insane. And I don't know that there's much else we can really say about it. We're gonna be talking about her for a while.
But I will say, while I do think it is certainly an oppressive card, I'm not on the like this card is broken train. I'm not on this card should be errata train.
I don't know that we need to ban or errata any cards. I'm on that train as well with you, but I do think this card is very, very strong, and
absolutely,
I think it is. I think it is very, very analogous to Diablo, and the exact sort of thing the Diablo deck is doing. This Sapphire Steel deck has a lot of very good cards in it. It has a lot of good value cards, whether it's the Kiwi Birds version or the Oops All Items, free items Aussie version. They both have good value cards that do great things, and this Belle and the combo that exists because of this Belle essentially means that there's a set of cards that they draw and they alter for that you lose, right? Like it's just GG's essentially. If we had one of those, what is it in poker? They've got the AI powered by Amazon AWS. It like shows you that like this guy with an ace 3 has like a 47% chance of winning. It would show you. We would get to see the opponent's hand, and it would be like Popsicle, Belle, Oswald, Hiram, Strength of Raging Fire, and and it would just be like 98% this person wins. Like right now, I don't even need to see the opponent's cards, right? Like GG's. So and the same with Diablo, right? If you get that one cost Diablo, the shift Diablo, the sing the storm on their card, put it in the cove or whatever, mechanic you need to keep it safe in that matchup, it's just over, right? Like you kind of are cooked. So this definitely introduces another one of those scenarios into the game, but I am kind of with Vince. I don't think that this is gonna this is we shall overcome, right? Like this is
Yeah.
fine. We'll pull ourselves up by our bootstraps and whoop their butts.
I think Andy, you and I've been on the same train for a long time too. So, but maybe you've jumped off. But I think like what this card represents in this game, I think what it exposes the weakness of Lorcana as a whole is that character removal is just very expensive, right? So like
Yeah.
we can introduce cards actually pretty well, we can introduce cards that are overstated fairly easily, but then the removal to get those cards off the board is always the challenge, right? Like you've mentioned Diablo. I talked earlier in the podcast about Daisy, right? And I'm not saying it's necessarily analogous to this exact card, but it puts that same kind of pressure. It's a hard card to remove that is easy and inexpensive for an opponent to play. So it just, and that's the balance. And that's why I have a real hard time saying like, okay, well, everybody's really complaining about this card being super oppressive. And I don't think it's any more oppressive than a lot of the other cards that exist in the game, because the answer to it is not so much that these cards shouldn't exist. It's the answer is actually what we need is better removal tools, right?
Yeah, the answer is you just have to do something slightly different with your deck than you wanted to do originally, right? And I think last set we saw a huge influx and a big boom in these, not necessarily aggro, but curve decks. These decks that seem more aggro. They want to play a card, quest a card. My card is better than your card, and it is going to quest, and you're by the time you remove it, it's going to get enough value that the next card is going to keep the train rolling, and I'm going to get to 20 before you can do anything about it. And so some people might say like, okay, well that was an aggro meta, with Kiwi Birds and now this set we've definitely seen tools given to these more combo-y decks, not necessarily control decks, but like I said, the medium Tammy, beautiful Tammy is Happy Tammy, sorry, is an upgrade from Big Tammy in that you can now do the things you want to do in play dime, get items, you recur items, and draw cards faster than you could before. And the Belle is 100% a way to stave off this early aggro, which was your sort of Achilles heel previously. And so these decks, maybe it's their time, right? But it doesn't mean that next set we're not going to see a new removal tool that is just like overpowered, and now it's like the set of like dragon fires, where we're just like banishing characters back and forth and like doing this crazy, so it's not the end of the game, it's not the end of the meta, it's not the end of the set. It is very strong. It is a whole lot of fun to play. I don't know if I've said that enough yet.
No, 100%. I agree with you that it's real fun to play. I mean, the fact that we're finally seeing like items and like you said, free dime. I mean, just the fact of really being able to really play items. Like I know folks have tried it successfully in the past, like with Ruby Sapphire, but like this just feels like this is meant, like this is designed from the ground up for items to be its thing, to have things like Maurice's Workshop where you're like playing items and then paying and drawing cards and stuff. You're doing a whole bunch of really fun things in this deck that you just have not been able to do in a competitive deck, except I think really on the fringes of the meta. Because I know you played that Ruby Sapphire items
I
deck.
tried
Like
that.
for
That was
briefly,
fun.
like you tried it, and it was always
It
like
won a
it was like on the
DLC
hair
in Europe,
trigger.
right?
Yeah,
Like what? It can't be
And
that bad.
that kind of circles back to my discussion about my new bit, though, too, is that like we've talked about it in length that just like different regions have different kinds of play styles, right? Where I think in Europe that kind of deck works because nobody here plays it. You know, it's I don't know. It's wild to me that a deck so wild goes and wins Europe, but we don't see something like that here. We don't even see Ruby Sapphire win a DLC here, let alone an off the beaten path
This is a
version of it
terrible
like that
deck.
one. Right?
Thank you for tuning in to Rules of Villainy. Join us next week.
What I do want to touch on, I thought about in the middle of that conversation was that this Belle hits multiple quadrants as well. Not only does she have a red-blue shift line, but she also has a blurple shift line now with the accomplished mystic, as well as the Emerald one, the hidden archer that people have been trying to make work for a long time. So in Baja Blast, she has a shift, and even like the best shift line now for that Belle. That before that, I think the best one was maybe Morph because there wasn't a low cost Belle in that case. So where I think she's a shift 3 maybe, where. That Belle comes out, and now you're getting so much more value out of it because if they don't have the removal tools that we talked about being overcosted, you have to discard your entire hand if you want to challenge her. She's a 3/3, so she's easy to get rid of, but it comes at a great cost if you can't do it with spot removal. So hitting those two decks as well, that Belle slots in to make interesting play lines in multiple decks rather than just the two we were talking about.
Yeah,
Blurple doesn't want this. Blurple has enough.
I'm going to try it. Me and Steven are trying it.
Blurple has enough draw from the Amethyst cards that you don't want to have to run the items and the Hiram package. And the other
we're not doing Hiram.
The other thing I think that makes Belle not as like I don't know. They have Belle in Ruby Sapphire, and they have a Fishbone, the Fishbone, I believe, and I want to say a lot of them are also running like Vitalosphere and even Potion of Might, but you really need more than 4 1-drop items to run this Belle. And so in Blurple, you really only have the 4 Popsicles, which makes this Belle incredibly bad because when it's a 3-cost 3/3, it's really bad. And however, purple, blue, green, emerald, sapphire, that I think is a little underrated. I know it got some love with the Bend to My Will deck, but I also played at the very end of last set an Aussie list that used Obscurosphere and Emerald Chromacon and all of these, and just like 0 to 20 in one turn.
And you know what I got this time around? Got Ink Geyser.
Yeah.
That geyser is something. I have some ideas.
We're on a ramp. The Ink Geyser is a whole nother episode on its own.
We'll be talking about it.
But yeah, I definitely could see there being enough items for Belle to potentially work in Emerald, and the shift there is pretty spicy as well. And yeah, Emerald Sapphire may get its own episode in the future because I definitely think that is a spicy ink combination.
You forget that Blurple has Croquet Mallet.
Oh, the Croquet Mallet. Anyway.
Wow. All right. Any last thoughts?
On the card, no, but I do want to give an artist showcase talking about some of the cards that Jochem has done. If you guys are done talking about the card itself.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So 3 enchanteds, one in which we talked about the red blue shift Belle, the new Jafar, which I believe Andy also has, and then the beautiful Mufasa from a couple sets ago. That was the chase of the shimmering skies. But a lot of notable cards here. The Donald Duck Musketeer Soldier with the Bodyguard +1 lore was found in a lot of aggro decks. The new Wendy Darling, the dual ink Amber Ruby card, is a beautiful card. Evasive 7-cost card. Baritone Bully from Gaston, I've always thought was really funny. It was a part of the podcast that I did last night. Chernabog is on the list as well. Basically all the Musketeers, because we got Musketeer Goofy, which Andy was big on in set 1, as well as the Steel Mickey Mouse Musketeer. But yeah, good good line of cards here. Everything in here is absolutely beautiful. Restoring the crown from this set, the amethyst steel card, just a beautiful landscape of Jafar getting the crown back. Great stuff. And we'll have his Instagram and website and everything in the description below if you want to see more.
We did the art for the Gen Con Mickey, which is the same for the card that's in the game, but still kind of cool. So one of the earliest artists.
Nice.
But with that, let us know your thoughts on the villain of the week. We hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you're joining us on audio, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. As we know, this hour and 40-minute podcast is a lot for your drive, but we appreciate you joining in.
And if you're joining us on YouTube, which if you're not, you definitely should. We have a lot of fun over here. Be sure to hit that like, that subscribe, and ring that bell icon so you can be notified of our next episode, as well as all of our fun extracurriculars that we have here on the Rules of Villainy podcast.
Yeah, I'm really excited to do some more content for you guys. Like, super excited about it. I hope it works out and you guys enjoy it. And we understand your time is valuable, so we appreciate you spending it.
Do we understand their time is valuable?
I do. We try. That's why I'm very appreciative that you stick around week to week or through the whole podcast, because we enjoy doing it. We enjoy you being here. If you would like to follow us along as we plot our devious plans, consider following us on our socials. We're on Instagram, Blue Sky, and the platform formerly known as Twitter @Rules of Villainy. We also have a growing community on Discord in which you can join with the link below.
And until next week, stay safe, fellow villains. Be wary of wannabe heroes who want to disrupt your villainous plans. And as always, remember the rules of villainy.